Welcome back. This video marks the beginning of part 2 of my John Deere 316 barn find, 1988 model with only 250 hours. I haven't done much since the first video at all, which was quite a few months ago. Just some silly stuff. You can buy these plastic covers on eBay. It's not even listed under John Deere. I think it was listed under Cub Cadet. Replace that. I bought a classic accessories deluxe cover for the seat to protect that original seat. And I just washed and cleaned the tractor up, which you can see just really brought out the shine. I didn't even wax it, but really just made the tractor already begin to look better. In this video, I'm going to introduce my one of my newest addition, as well as get you up to speed on some of my latest projects on my 2014 X534. I will film, when I do the first start on that. I have not tried to start it. Just today, I drained the fuel tank. Well, that's a misleading statement. I sucked the fuel out of the tank, which you can't tell. It's black. It's disgusting. It was horrible. But I sucked probably 3 gallons out of there. Put them in a tank. At the bottom of the tank was just a horrid amount of varnish, which is that. It's this brown gunk that fuel turns to. That's a very unscientific assessment here, of course, but essentially when you leave it for that long, years and years, fuel turns to varnish, that brown sludge. So my plan today was to suck all the gas out, put fresh non-ethanol gas in it, and try to fire it up for y'all. However, when I found all that varnish and that sludge, you couldn't pay me $100 to try to start this tractor up with fuel in it, because what's going to happen is that new fuel is going to mix with that varnish and create sludge that'll work its way into the fuel system, into the engine. I did that once before on a 111 that had been sitting for like 5 years in a garage, and it ended up sticking the intake valve closed because of that varnish got in it so bad. So this video will continue at a later date about the 316, and I bought a ton of new parts for it. I bought the actual fender lamps from the 318, brand new fender lamps. I bought a brand new. You can still buy the wire harness for the fender lamps, and apparently the 316 in the wiring harness has at least this is what I've been told on forums. It has a lead that is open for the fender lamps. It just wasn't utilized on the 316, obviously. So when I'm gonna end up taking the fender pan off and removing the fuel tank to get all that varnish out. Cleaning it. I've been told lacquer thinner is what'll break that varnish up. So I'll end up taking the whole fender pan off and cleaning up in there, cleaning the belly screen and the frame, and cleaning the fuel tank out. And then at the same time, I'll do whatever else needs to be done in there. And let's see. Oh yeah, and then of course put the wiring harness in, put the fender lamps in. So I bought that. I bought a brand new. So the 316 didn't come with the 3-position fuel switch with a reserve. I bought a brand new fuel switch, which from John Deere was $60, $60-something. Wasn't cheap, but I really like the look of having that switch there. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to create a reserve because I don't want to deal with another fuel line going to the tank. I'm just going to put that in. I'm going to cap off the reserve section, and then but it'll still be able to be switched off. So I'll be able to switch the fuel off when I'm, storing it for the winter time or whatever. And I got the decal as well that goes around. Anyway, so next I'd like to go into the tractor I most recently purchased, which is also a 1988. It is a John Deere 185 Hydro. It has a 14, I believe it's a 14 powered, 14 horsepower Kawasaki engine. I might be wrong about how many horsepower. I cannot remember right now. It's the same engine they used on the GT275 in the 90s and some other applications. It might be more. It might be a 16 horse. I can't remember. It's a single cylinder. It's a very powerful engine. I bought this, I would say, only like 2 months ago now. And I paid, oddly enough, $250 for it off of Facebook Marketplace. Which, if you're not on Facebook Marketplace, you are really missing out on some good finds. This tractor came from Brooksville, Florida. It was owned by like a 90-year-old gentleman that wasn't mowing his lawn anymore. It was purchased by someone that was doing some work for him for not much. And then he had it for, they got it running. They said they had it for a couple years under the carport, let it sit, didn't have it running anymore. And so he just wanted to get rid of it, sold it for $250. He did not know what he had by any means. If you look at the finer points of this tractor, it's in excellent condition. It's just dull because it sat under the carport. There isn't a single dent in this bumper, which still shines. It just needs to be waxed, and it's dull again. You can actually see old wax. So whoever had this took care of this thing. That's old wax. See the wax lines? The lens is in. There's no cracks on the lens. Just some marks that'll scuff off. I mean, the hardware still shines. The muffler is still black. It's rusted in there where it gets hot, but the tip's still black. One thing I immediately fell in love with was the shape of these tires, which are just like my 316. They're the original Goodyear soft track. I don't know if the 316 are called soft track, but these are the soft track tires. It's the same design. It's the same S design. This one still has rubber nipples on it, which just goes to show you how, this thing really didn't see a whole lot of use. If you look at that deck is still in really good shape. Look at that silver hardware, still nice and silver. This deck had the power flow on it. So just like my 316, what happens with these tractors, it seems, is that people get a hold of them that don't know anything about them, and they get rid of things, or they modify it, or they do whatever with them. And for collectors, which I'm sure I've got a few collectors watching these videos, it's really regrettable, and it's almost heartbreaking. So sure enough, this had the 38-inch power flow on it, and they took it off and threw it out because they didn't know what it was. They thought it was garbage, or they didn't want to use it, or they didn't think it was useful, so they threw it out. Little did they know that power flow is worth several $100s on its own. So no power flow, but check out these original John Deere hubcaps. Still have the white paint in the center. All the hubcaps are in really good shape. They need to be clean with steel wool and whatnot to shine them back up. That one back there, one of them, I think it's that one right there, has a dent in it. I don't know if that'll ever concern me enough to bang out or not, but oh yeah, this I did all myself. None of this was here. It had begun to crack, and I took the sprayer to it, and all that paint just flew off. So anyone who collects late 80s and on, heck, even the new stuff, the cheap, D series, E series, it does this because they don't properly etch. This was when powder coating was relatively new in John Deere. I think this was like the first year they had done it was 87 or 88. So they didn't properly prepare the metal before priming it. So they prime it, they powder coat it, and this is what happens years later on. When the water sits there and such. But it's still in really good shape. Look at that, how white that plastic still is on that bottle. The seat's in good shape besides the crack right in the center, which happens from the heat, and over time. Everything appears to be original on it. These are the original old style deck wheels. Look at how much life those still have on them. The spindle's still nice and black. Some fool did concrete work near the tractor, concrete or some kind of hard concrete-like substance, and did concrete work near the tractor and got it everywhere. It's everywhere. They speckled it everywhere, and some of it's easy to get off. If anyone has any recommendations for getting all of that off, please comment, because I do not know what I'm going to do about it. I've just left it alone for now. But you can see everything, like I said, all the metal is still really shiny. Look at that. Look at those tower braces. Look at the condition of those, and all the hardware in there is still nice and shiny, nice and bright, just like the 316. I've already bought a bunch of parts for this. I have this. I have the pedestal plastic. Over time, if anyone has a 160 to 185 series, or 130 to 185 rather, you'll find that these turn a different green. It's really odd. They're not like bright green anymore. They turn like a hunter green. I actually have one up in my attic that's a different shade of green. So I don't know. These are like $90 from John Deere. I'm not paying that much money for one, so I'll probably just end up reusing this. Look at that hood emblem is still great. That no bends or anything in that entire grill, which is rare for this series that I've seen. These are almost always cracked and worn and weathered and used because you use these so much. Look at that one, is in such good shape. Got the old style steering wheel, which I love. Just needs to be cleaned up. It's got this weird layer of like mold, weird stuff here. So when I got it, the guy said, oh, you just need to drain the carburetor and put new gas in it and fire it up. Well, sure enough, I did that, and it would not fire. And when I poured gas directly into the carburetor, it was pooling in the carburetor. So the gas was not being drawn down into the carburetor, which quite simply meant that the intake valve was not working properly. So sure enough, I had a buddy with me, and I'd spin the engine, and I took the head off, and the valves weren't moving. I took the I'm not sure of the name. I took the the rocker arm off, and what had happened is I think it's called the tappet. It comes from the valve, and it works on a spring. When the camshaft moves, it's moving back and forth. I believe it's the tappet had fallen out because the rocker arm was so loose. So I tightened the rocker arm. I actually set it to spec with a gauge, and put that back in, and it, boom, fired right up. So that's all it was. It was just that tappet that had become dislodged. So no big deal. It actually runs really good. These tractors are made these engines are made so well. I mean, the entire tractor is just made phenomenally. So anyway, this is one that I will absolutely be restoring, as well as the 316. At a minimum, I'm going to have the fender pan sandblasted and re-powder coated, and the deck as well. I'll have the deck I'll take the deck off, take everything off, and same thing, powder coat it, sandblast it. The hood is actually still really shiny. It's just dull. So I think I'll just be able to wax that up, and that'll be good to go. But I'll probably have this tractor in more videos. I already bought a ton of parts for it. Just anything that wasn't, just like the 316, anything that's rusty here, it's not shining or whatever, I like to replace, because I want it looking like I just got it from the dealership. So that's another project. And for $250, could not go wrong. And I have this, I have that shield as well. I had just taken it off to see the, I don't remember where I put it. I had just taken it off to see the condition of the spindles. I mean, look at that. Look at how much that still shines there. So, and I'd like to get the power flow brackets and the power flow assembly back working. See, it has that that double stacked pulley. I'd like to get the power flow for it, but man, that is expensive. Trying to piece it together is pretty pricey. So I'll see if, you know, I'm sure I'll eventually be able to find it. It's just kind of rare down here in Florida, that my neck of the woods. Okay, so moving on. This is my 2014 John Deere X534. It's the all-wheel steer, power steering, 48-inch deck. You saw this in my prior video. I didn't really mention it too much, other than I was talking about the deck shields. I bought this last year, probably the beginning of last year. It's a 2014, and it has only 50 hours on the meter. Let's see if I'll grab the keys for it and show you. I think it's 51 now. Because I used it a couple times. Oh, 55. Okay, 56. I've used it to mow the lawn, I think 3 times. So I've put those. I put those 6 hours on it myself. Anyways, so I paid. I don't mind telling people what I paid for something. I've noticed that people that make some of these videos are kind of weird. They just mention like, "Oh, I didn't pay much," or whatever. I don't know. So I'm not weird about that. I don't care to let it be known. I paid $36.50 for this last year. With only 50 hours on it, or just under 51. This is a tractor that is, I believe John Deere wants around $7,700 for it new. So this thing was in pretty much new condition. It had just been sitting for a while, kind of like most of the things I end up with, it seems. And I had to go to Orlando, Florida to buy this, 2 hours away from me. But I had been drooling over these X5 series with all-wheel steer for a long time. I love the all-wheel steering, and the power steering is amazing. That combination is just makes it effortless to mow the lawn. So I paid $36.50 for it. Everything worked great on it. However, I noticed that there was fluid under the rear end when I had parked it, and I'm like, that's strange. This should not be leaking fluid. Long story short, anyone that knows mowers in today's era knows tough torque transaxles. You either love them or you hate them. Well, this one I hated. This is the come on, focus. There we go. This is the cap that it rests on the top of the transaxle. Well, I don't know if it was this is a later tractor. I don't know why they were still using these, but some of the caps are just rubber, literally just rubber, and then a alloy ring or whatever. So this had cracked, and the 534, well, the X500 series, they have a reservoir that sits, and the reservoir is higher than this cap. So over time, it was slowly leaking out of that cap. This was obviously never changed, you know. This was the one that was in it when it was built. So I bought through eBay. I only paid like, I don't know, $10 for it. I bought the Tough Torque cap, and it's all metal. It's not rubber in the center. It's actually an all metal cap. It looks exactly the same, except for we can't push this in. So I replaced the cap, and no more leaks. I also, at 50 hours, you're supposed to change the transaxle fluid and filter on the units with power steering. They have a filter. So I did that with John Deere fluids. So did that at the same time. So it actually worked out pretty well. And I did not have to take the rear end off. These rear ends are really heavy. It's the K72 transaxle. What I ended up doing is I took the fender pan off. This whole thing, this is separate from this part. There's actually 2 pieces of the fender pan, so I took this off. I took the seat assembly off, and then this off. It actually only has like 4 bolts. It's like 2 under here, 2 on the other side, and then maybe some in the back. It's really easy to get off. Anyways, I took that off, and voila, I had access to the transaxle, where I then replaced the cap. So it really wasn't that bad. It took maybe 2 hours, and then I changed the fluid and filters. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'll show you the other thing I just did today. So, as much as I love buying tractors that have sat for a while and been untouched, this one sitting did it no favors. This is the transaxle fan, or excuse me, this is the flywheel fan and flywheel plate that attaches the fan to the flywheel. You can see how disgusting and rusted and pitted it is. There was mice in the fan. There was a nest all in here. And you can see that this is where they did all their business. So it literally just completely corroded this plate. And they were chewing on the fan while they were in there. Luckily, and I mean by the grace of God, I can't even believe it, they did not chew on anything else in this engine bay. That flywheel has a healthy dose of surface rust, which is really common because these are uncoated steel. So I just took, I just coated it with, and I scraped it all off, all the loose rust or anything like that. I scraped it all off, cleaned it off, and then coated it with lubricant just to protect it somewhat. But it's thick steel. It's not gonna go anywhere. Nothing's really gonna happen. I just felt the need to do it. So, anyways, I bought a new fan. I bought a new fan, flywheel fan, and the flywheel plate, which is over here, which I painted today. I primed it, painted it, and clear coated it. Really overkill, but I hated seeing that rusty plate in the under the flywheel there. It just really bothered me. So that's it. That's all I have to do for that. Just got to stick that back on. So that's pretty much it for today. My 534. Oh, another upgrade I'm really proud of is those are the 400 series deck gauge wheels with grease zerks. I love grease zerks, and I love being able to actually do maintenance. They have a rubber seal that butts up against the the face of this spindle or bracket, whatever, that prevents the zerks from or the grease getting out. Anyways, a lot of people don't know this, but these deck gauge wheels will directly replace any of the 48C deck wheels that are this, that same size. The normal black wheels. Now, not these wheels. Those are the old style that have a big bolt that goes through. Let's see. This is my 02 LT180. So these normal deck wheels, if you have these deck wheels and you want to be able to grease your wheels, because what happens is over time the dirt gets in between the wheel and the bolt and the bracket it rides on, and it just erodes them. Well, I'll show you. I actually have a couple laying around. And this is what they look like after a long time. Look at that. That's horrible. That's from a 38-inch LT deck. So, to prevent that, if you buy the deck wheels with the zerks, they'll directly fit right on there. So that's what I did. I also have the black ones from the X5 or what is it, 485 series or whatever, that they come on like the 60-inch decks. They'll also use those wheels with the grease zerks, but they're black. They don't have the yellow. I just thought the yellow looked cool. So that's pretty much it for this tractor. I've got a couple other things going on it, but nothing major. Just replace a few stuff here and there that was kind of scuffed up or anything. Give you one more look at the 185. There we go. Like I said, there's an LT 180 under there, but it's under so much garbage. Well, just blankets that I use to protect everything else. Let me end this video where it began. My 316. Sorry I wasn't able to get it going this time for y'all, but at least you know my plans. and what I'll do with it. So the next part of the video, or part 3, will have me, you know, getting it going. So I'll make sure that happens for you all. Okay, thanks for watching.